Welcome to your week zero post-draft power rankings. I'm Ian, your host, and I also roasted all of you in the draft picks. So there you go. Actually, there might have been a couple of you that I didn't actually get to roast, but maybe I'll get my chance now. So as I go through this, I'm notorious for yawning in videos where I talk a lot, and I also have a lot of points. I'm going to try and make this as quick as I can just because I don't really want to spend forever talking about this. Like, I'd love to have this under an hour, um, which is why I set the music to being an hour. So hopefully I'll reach that goal. Don't take this too seriously, guys. Okay, that's the first thing that I'm going to start this off with is don't take this too seriously. I've only seen like four of you play before. Monster, Magic, Byron, and Hamu are the only ones I've seen battle before this. Please don't take this seriously by any means. Your ranking could go from 16th to 1st within a week, just based on how you perform. A good player can use a bad team well, and a bad player can use a good team poorly. So, yeah, take this with a huge grain of salt, and let's hop right into things here with team number 16. Oh, I guess the last thing I should mention is that shoutouts to Necro for making slides um, for the regular season rankings. It didn't really make a lot of sense when I had points to talk about for the post draft, so I'm not using them for this, but I'll use them next week for the week one power rankings. Okay. First up is Jack in the Coventry Conkelders. I am so sorry, Jack. Someone had to be 16th, and unfortunately, you don't have a ton of practice in the format. I know I helped you a little bit there, but the team still it's just not as good as the rest of them, honestly. You guys can see I put the team there with all the sprites as well as the slots that they fit into. So let's talk about the team first then. So it's got Mega Sableye, Tapu Bulu, Raikou, Empoleon, Crocodile, Golbat, Meowstic, Dragonite, Typhlosion, Alolan Sandslash, and Gliscod. I don't hate this team. I'm going to be honest. I really don't hate this team, and I think that kind of bodes well for the rest of you, considering that I still like this team and it's last. Big pros is that it's got great wall breaking. You got really good wall breaking potential with the Bulu, with the Raikou, with the Typhlosion, and with the Dragonite. I think, and with the Gliscod as well. So there's a ton of wall breaking on this team. It's very effective wall breaking. But the first con as well, there's not a lot of good cleaners. Like, it's kind of relying on Dragonite to be a cleaner, and it could be relying on Alolan Sandslash as a cleaner if it was a Hail team, but it's not. So unfortunately, it's kind of relying on Dragonite with extreme speed to clean it up, or like Scarf Raikou or Scarf Typhlosion. I'm hesitant to say Scarf Typhlosion. Scarf Crocodile probably a little bit more likely. The utilities there. So Mega Sableye offers a lot of team support and utility. Empoleon offers a lot as well. Empoleon is really good at getting up rocks and defogging rocks as well. Because it resists rocks, it's pretty easy to defog, and it gets up rocks on a lot of types that water threatens out and or steel. Can get up rocks on fairy types pretty easily. Gets up rocks on rock types very easily. Ground types some of the time only if it's faster. And so that's all there. Golbat offers this team some phasing, and Meowstic is both forms, but male form is a very good. Or is it both forms? Let me just double check that. The male form, if it's only male, then male form offers a ton of utility. That's okay, so it's both. The male form offers tremendous utility with Prankster Screens and Prankster Yawn, things of that nature. There's also some decent hazard support. It's not fantastic hazard support, but it's there. You got the Empoleon with the rocks, Crocodile with rocks, Sandslash with rocks, and Gliscod with spikes. And then in terms of keeping hazards off the field, there's Mega Sableye's Magic Bounce preventing that a lot, as well as Empoleon, Golbat defogging, Dragonite defogging, but you probably don't want to defog with Dragonite all that much, and then Sandslash spinning. Was telling you to get a lot of removal because, Goliathspot, Dragonite, and Typhlosion really don't like rocks. They really don't. So as much as Mega Sableye probably turns people off of setting rocks, Magic Bounce is a very easy ability to play around. And there are Mold Breaker options, while few and far between. Something like a Mold Breaker Excadrill, although I don't know if Excadrill even got drafted, it can set rocks. It didn't get drafted. It's free. So If someone has a sand team, feel free to go grab Excadrill. Arch it. Okay. Yes, that is all I had to do with the pros. Okay. Cons, big budget threats missing. So when I think of a big budget threat, I'm thinking of like Tapu Koko, I'm thinking of Celesteela, I'm thinking of Landorus Therian. There are lots of really, really big budget threats. Blacephalon, Victini, just looking down the tier 1 list here. Manaphy's a big budget threat. Kyurem Black, Garchomp. This team kind of lacks those. So I really find Tapu Bulu underwhelming. In general, I think Tapu Bulu is not the best mon ever. Wow, the music's, you can't even hear the music. I just, okay. Bad editing, Ian. We'll just turn it up a little bit then so you guys can actually hear it. Maybe a little bit less than that, but now it's at least hearable. Okay, so I'm just trying to be a little bit relaxing as we go through this, right? That's a big thing missing for me is a big budget threat. I think Dragonite and Raikou and Tapu Bulu are big budget threats. To an extent, they're middle budget threats, okay? They're middle budget threats. I think every other team has a big budget threat on them. Some Megas that I didn't mention on the teams that I didn't mention. Mega Charizard X is a big budget threat. Jirachi is a big budget threat. I can't remember if I said that or not. Mega Alakazam is a big budget threat. I said the Mew already. Mega Tyranitar is a big budget threat, so is Blacephalon. I think I mentioned those already, though. Mega Lopunny is a big budget threat. Kartana is a big budget threat, and Zygarde 50% is a big budget threat. So this is like kind of the only team to me that is missing a very centralizing mon in prep that has to be prepped for. Now, again, I'm not saying that they can't be there. I'm saying to me, it's not. So it's very possible that Tapu Bulu or Dragonite could fill that role, but in my eyes, I don't think they will. That is why you were 16th, Jack. Again, I'm really sorry. I really think that this could be a solid team for you, and I think that you can pull off some wins with it depending on how you play. I took the screenshots before Z users, and I'm glad I did because they got like changed around in free agency and blah blah blah. Dragonite and Meowstic are the Z users. I 100% agree with those. Mostly because Dragonite it looks really good with Z Crystal on it, and the way that the Z moves work or the Z rules work, you had to pick a tier 5. Your only tier 5 is Meowstic, so it can work. You can use like Z screens and stuff like that. It's not horrible. 15th is Magic in the Snow Point City Blizzard. Okay. I don't like this team, and Magic knows it. I just find it extremely underwhelming. It's got easy wall breaking, so that's the first thing. You know, Mega Aerodactyl, Kyurem Black, Eternal Floette, very good wall breakers. Infernape in its own right can be a wall breaker, although it's typically used as more of a cleaner. Donphan can also be used as a wall breaker potentially, same with Shaman and Araquanid. So, I mean, like, there's options, a ton of options for wall breaking on the squad. It's a good mix of offenses. Aerodactyl is obviously very physical. Kyurem Black is a nice mixed attacker. Floette's a very special attacker. And then Infernape's a nice mixed attacker too. Very good mixed options here. Things like Bronzong are mixed attackers. Things like Shaman, technically mixed attackers. Seviper's a mixed attacker. And the Electros is a mixed attacker. So it's a very good balance of offenses. And then what I really dislike about this team is the speed is horrible. Okay. Mega Aerodactyl, massive speed gap down to Infernape. And then there's a big grouping of the Kyurem Black and the Floette and the Shaman, all really close together in speed. And then it gets all the way down to the lower end where you're looking at... actually, I don't even know what Seviper's speed is. It might be 60 or something like that, but it's not relevant because it's Seviper. You have things like Donphan, Araquanid, Electros, and Doublade all at the lower end there. There is a Trick Room aspect to this team, so I'm not saying that having a slow team is docking points by any means. I think the biggest thing is the speed gap between Mega Aerodactyl and Infernape. That is a speed gap that is very relevant because it means that essentially things like Mega Lopunny can run Adamant very easily. Because Mega Aerodactyl hits the highest point normally. Generally, okay, so Deoxys speed is in this draft. Normally, Mega Alakazam, Mega Aerodactyl, Electrode hit the highest tier that you would see normally because Ninjask just isn't drafted. And instead, we got Deoxys speed eclipsing those, so, you know, you can't really do anything about that unless you have Ninjask and you get a speed boost up, but it's not relevant. Between Mega Aerodactyl and Infernape, though, there's a ton of mons that fit into that. Things like Mega Manectric, things like Mega Lopunny, things like Mega Beedrill, like, there's just all of this stuff that can just afford to run Adamant for free, and it's really poor planning on Magic's part for that giant speed gap there. Not a fan. Not a fan. Triple rockers on this team, I can agree with the triple rockers. Removal options are pretty shit too. For a team with Kieran Black and Mega Aerodactyl and Araquanid, the removal option is like Mega Arrow defogging for itself, or like Donphan rapid spinning. Oh, it's quad rockers. I totally missed that Infernape gets rocks. Yeah, I should have mentioned hazard control not being there, because it's not. It's really not. But webs are on the team, and webs can sort of circumvent that speed gap that I was talking about earlier. It's a little bit relevant. The last point I had about Magic's team is that the defensive mons have little to no recovery. This is extremely true, and it's going to rely on A, Flow passing Wish, or B, running defensive Shaman or defensive Kieran Black very often. Mons like Donphan, mons like Bronzong, mons like Electros, these are the mons that I consider to be the defensive backbone of this team, and none of them get reliable recovery. That's pretty relevant in having a defensive backbone. It just means that games are going to go a little bit faster because Magic can't heal up his defensive mons. They're gonna fall eventually, which is then going to free up opponents to just kind of being able to click offensive moves really easily against this team. I like the status absorption. You know, you get Shaman with Natural Cure, Bronzong switches into Toxic super easily. Donphan obviously switches into Thunder Wave, so does the Electros, so I like that a lot. And then Deblade is kind of just sitting there. I don't really like Deblade on this team. I get it because of the Steel type. I don't like the Ghost typing necessarily. You don't need it. I can understand why you'd want to spin block with webs, but you don't have like T-spikes or spike support, so why would anyone want to rapid spin against you when they can just defog? Because you've got webs, so like, and you have the best rapid spinner in the game on your team. So yeah, spin block is not necessary. Z users for Magic. Let me scroll down here. Kieran Black and Seviper, I 100% agree with these. There's really no other reason to run anything besides Kieran Black as a Z user, except for maybe Infernape. That would be the only other thing that I would see potentially as a Z user here. Shaman in niche circumstances, but not really. Seviper, like I said, it's a good mixed attacker. I looked it up and it actually has like reasonable coverage options, so as a Z user, it could maybe do something. In 14th, we have the Canadian Abomasnows and Barry. I mentioned a lot during the draft that I did not like this team very much, and I still don't. There are hazards everywhere, but you told me that you don't click hazards, so what was the point in getting all these hazards if you don't click them? Deoxys, you have spikes. Greninja, you have spikes and T-spikes. Cradilla, you have rocks. Heatran, you have rocks. Nidoking, you have rocks and T-spikes. And then Gligar, you have rocks. So, like, that's like 6 mons I just named off, and you're never going to click them? Why, though? Some of these mons function better than just hazard setters. Mons like Cradilli, not really. Typically, you know, you're switching in on a water move. There's niche curse sets and things like that, but its main job is to function as a utility mon that sets up rocks. So I don't, like, really? Deoxys Speed, its main niche in Draft League is as a spike setter. It's also its main niche on the ladder. It can do a lot more. I gave it a little bit, I didn't give it enough credit when I was going over the pick. I will admit that 100% I did not give Deoxys Speed as much credit as I would have liked to. However, it is amazing as a rocks and spike setter, and you should use it as a rocks or spike setter, like, realistically. There's wall breaking all over the place on this team. Greninja is a great wall breaker, so is Nidoking, so is Meloetta, so is Vikavolt, and so is the Mega Charizard X. Decent cleaners with those as well. Mons like Deoxys Speed come in and clean very easily. I think I went and did the math right, and it was Nihilego was the fastest Scarfer, or sorry, the slowest Scarfer that could outspeed Deoxys Speed, max speed. So that's pretty impressive because there are a lot of Mons that hit above that. There are a ton of mons that hit below that Deoxys Speed is going to naturally outspeed a Scarf variant of. So you can play around a lot with your speed creeping, and I think that that's a really valuable tool for the team. Momentum-wise, there is quite a bit of it. You got things like Baton Pass, Togekiss, U-Turn, Greninja, U-Turn, Decidueye, Volt Switch, Vikavolt, U-Turn, Meloetta, U-Turn, Gligar. So you can definitely pivot around with this team quite a bit. I like it a lot better after your drops. Honestly, I can't even remember what your team was before, but I hated it. I think Quagsire was on the team or something really bad. I might be thinking of a different team, though. Multiple double typings. This is where it gets bad. Okay, double fire makes no sense. Fire is a great defensive typing. by itself, it is the second best defensive typing after Steel by itself based on resistances. Mega Charizard X does not help that. It really doesn't. The only thing, like, you're taking away the water weakness and making it neutral, but then you're giving it a fairy neutrality, making it weak to dragon, making it neutral to ice, which it then resisted. So, like, Mega Charizard X is not a defensive mon by any means. Although I did have one wall my Kartana, as he brought a physically defensive set to switch into Leaf Blades, so that was quite interesting. And then Heatran is not really the defensive backbone you're looking for here either. It is quad weak to ground, which the team generally is weak to ground. You do have double flying and a levitator. So again, double flying? Double grass, I see double grass. I see double psychic for some reason as well. And there might be something I'm missing here. Is that double psychic? Yeah, double psychic with the Dio's speed and the Meloetta. Double fairy is really strong, and double water are really strong strategies in Draft League. The rest of these typings, I don't understand why you're doubling up on these typings in particular. Oh, double ground as well. That was the one that I was missing. Why? Don't make any sense to me whatsoever. I like Heatran as a steel. I don't like it as a fire. And I don't like it paired with Mega Charizard X. I'm not a big fan of the way that that works. Last but not least, your Rock Resistance Nidoking. Rock blows through this team, by the way. So any of you watching, Rock-type attacks kind of cuck this team. And Nidoking has no way of healing unless it gets a Wish passed into it from the Togekiss, which it probably wouldn't want to do. So enjoy that, especially because they're both weak to Ice, so Ice is very spammable against this team as well, because the Ice resists are Greninja and Heatran. Wow. Heatran with no recovery, and Greninja, which doesn't switch into attacks. Alright then, Z-users. Let's talk about your Z-users. Greninja and Decidueye. I can agree with that. The only thing I might have done differently is throw Z onto Heatran, or throw it onto Vikavolt. I feel like Z Togekiss plus Z Vikavolt could have been good. Z Greninja is amazing, though, so I'll give you all the credit in the world for that. Z Decidueye is very underwhelming, and I think you'll find that as you go through the season, that you're not really going to find a lot of matchups that Z Decidueye can do a lot of work in, although it is very usable. And Z Greninja has Z Greninja has the coverage options to be able to use Z Crystals very well. Okay, next up, 13th is the United Victinis and Flames. Okay, Mega Steelix. I'll start with that as the con. Your attacking stats are very underwhelming, my guy. Mega Steelix is your best physical attacker, and I didn't bother checking out what your best special attacker is. I think it's probably Latias with like base 110. Very underwhelming attack stats. I have a feeling this is going to require a lot of chip on teams to be able to pick up kills, or you're going to have to force a lot of trades with Manaphy, or like find a way to get Manaphy set up. There's no webs to support Manaphy, so I'm a little bit iffy there. The good news is a Selgor can get you that chip that you need. Mons like Whimsicott with Subseed Shenanigans can also get you that chip that you need. It's definitely there. The way to get that is there. Pro, high upper speed. You have really good high speed tiers. You've got the Selgor, you've got the Zeraora, you've got the Crobat. You have that entirely covered. I don't like that there's a gap then between that and Whimsicott. Between Crobat and Whimsicott. Something in the 120s would have been nice to see. Not 100% needed by any means, but it would have been nice to see. Then you have Latias. So now you're at 110. Then you have Manaphy at 100. Okay. That's like half your team that's above base 100 speed. That's more than enough. Oh, I get it. Then we drop all the way to Incineroar in speed? What? That gap is very key. Mons like Mamoswine can now afford to run Adamant against you, which is very scary. Adamant Mamoswine is nothing to be messed with, okay? Any base 80 Mon, any base 90 Mon that you can think of in existence can run Adamant or Modest against your team, which scares the shit out of me. You have a Trick Room option, but your only Trick Room abuser is like Snorlax or Cursed Quagsire. Not a fan. Mega Steelix can be, but I really think you picked Mega Steelix only to get the points, and I don't think you used the points that well. You've covered Manaphy's weaknesses very well. Fire weakness is covered well by the Quagsire, by the Latias, and by the Incineroar. Sorry, fire weakness. Oh my god. Grass weakness, sorry, is covered by the Whimsicott, the Incineroar, the Latias, the Crobat, which obviously 4 times resistant, and technically the Acelgor. A little bit worried because you've got another water that's 4 times weak to grass, but it can be covered. And then the electric weakness, you have double ground with the Mega Steelix, the Quagsire. Again, I'm not really a big fan of double ground. I like the double water generally, and an offensive and a defensive works. Double fairy, same thing, very effective, very effective. Zeraora is a nice electric immunity for you. You've got the Latias there as well to soak electric hits, and Whimsicott, of course, as well there to soak the electric hits. I think this team supports Manaphy very well, and I think that Manaphy is really the star of the show with this team. I have a good feeling that Manaphy will pull that role. You do have double T-Spikers, which I like. I don't like that you have a lack of spinner with hazard stack. So you do have Defoggers. You have 3 Defoggers with the Whimsicott, the Latias, and the Crobat. However, you have Spike Stack and T-Spike Stack on your team. You have double T-Spikers, Spike Stack with the Acelgor, and then you have a Rocker and Mega Steelix. That's a secondary point. I don't like that you're only Rockers, Mega Steelix. It's probably going to have to come a lot, or you're going to have to rely on Spikes. Not the end of the world in this day and age, but it's definitely a thought to think about. I talked about your speed distribution being awful. Lack of spinner. Yes. Okay, so this team would be pretty strong if you had a Donphan on it, in my opinion. Donphan obviously doesn't help the speed problem, but a really good spinner. Maybe something like Cloyster would be a little bit better than Quagsire, potentially. Because I really don't see you getting set up on too much with this team. Like, I feel like they're going to be so much more scared of Manaphy. I don't know really what you would set up on this squad. Yeah, seems weird. You have Fast Taunt anyways with the Crobat to stop those shenanigans, so it shouldn't be an issue. Your Z users. Let's go over your Z users here. You have Manaphy and Quagsire. I agree with that 100%. Manaphy is an amazing Z user. Latias and Zeraora are also both very good Z users as well. Quagsire is a horrible speed user. Wow, horrible Z user. But obviously, you're not bringing Z Quagsire necessarily. It's there as a threat, I guess. But if you bring Z Quagsire, I don't want to watch that game. 12th. All right, we're past the first 4. Upwards now. King Larynx, Punjab, and Boomcan. I am so sorry again. I don't like this team very much, and I didn't have the least amount. I was sort of neutral on this as we were going in the draft, but we'll talk about the pros here. Very versatile threats. Mons like Altaria can go in so many different options. Kartana has a lot of different sets, so does Chandelure. Flygon has very versatile sets, so does the Azelf. Azelf's a very good mixed attacker, same with Electivire, same with PZ. I really think it's very versatile threats. Mixed attackers, like I just said, there's a lot of them. Mega Altaria. Flygon can technically be a mixed attacker, so can Poliwrath. Azelf, very good mixed attacker. Electivire and PZ as well is a very good mixed attacker. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of Normalium Z double edge teams with PZ as well as Hyper Beam, so sort of being able to interchange that based on what you're hitting with the download boost. It seems a little bit OP to me. Cons, your defensive backbone is Toxapex Manabuzz. That's it. Nothing else eats hits. I'm just going to be completely blunt with you. Nothing else eats hits. Manabuzz and Toxapex are going to have to be defensive so often. I dislike that very much. Or you're going to have to bring defensive Mega Altaria, which is not ideal. Realistically, it's a viable set. By all means, I have seen a Mega Altaria wall Mega Charizard X before, actually twice. I just don't think it's there for you. I really don't. Luckily, they cover each other decently well. The biggest thing is electric, which you kind of have covered, kind of don't. I'd say it's covered, but Mons like Kartana resist technically, but like Thunderbolt still one-shots Kartana depending on what it is. Mega Altaria does not want to eat a Thunderbolt really before it Mega Evolves. Flygon's immune, I guess. Aerodactyl's then weak, and so is Poliwrath, and then Electivire's immune as well if you're running the right ability. So options there. Again, I don't really think that it's that safe when electric kind of breaks your defensive core, though. So, yeah. No Oomph Factor. Right. Kartana is your biggest threat. There are a few different options here. Flygon, I definitely don't agree with. I talked about this in the draft. Flygon made no sense on this team. There were better ground types to take. There were absolutely better ground types to take than Flygon. Don't get me wrong. Mudsdale is better than Flygon, and I don't care what the argument is. Mudsdale is so much more solid on this team than having another Dragon type when you have Mega Altaria sitting there. Doesn't make any sense to me. Flygon, the only thing it's doing for this team is a decent Scarfer, which Electivire, Chandelure, and Azelf all do. So get rid of Flygon is my advice. It's horrible. Poliwrath is a con, and it's just it's there by itself. Poliwrath is an unmon. What is this thing even doing on your draft? Like, did you pick it for a flying type? Flying type. Holy shit, I misspoke. Sorry. A fighting type is what I meant to say. There are a wide variety of fighting types sitting in tier 5, my guy. Girder was maybe there. I can't remember about Girder being there or not, but Girder is very threatening. Even something like Hitmonchan, if it was in this tier, I can't even look if it's in this tier. Is Hitmonchan in this tier? Why is Hitmonchan tier 4? This is an undraft. Hitmonchan should not be in tier 4. Okay, I might be eating my words here a little bit. There may not be better fighting types in tier 4. Tier 5, I don't know. I didn't look long enough to be able to tell. Whatever, call me out on it if you want. I don't care. Yeah, Poliwrath is a con. It's bad. It's a bad mon. I know what I talked about with offensive water and defensive water. Poliwrath does not fit the bill for that when its best attack is Focus Blast or Submission. Not good. Not a good mon. That's all I have to say about this. Overall, the team functions really well. It's got a lot of good momentum. Mons like the Flygon, Mons like the Mandibuzz, Azelf, and the Electivire all can pivot really well. And having a Regenerator Water type is really strong on a team that pivots around really well. So I like that a lot. Kartana's fire weakness is covered extremely well on the team as well. I was going to say nothing else is weak to fire besides the Kartana. Mega Altari resists, Toxapex resists, Chandelure's immune, Flygon resists, Aerodactyl resists, Poliwrath resists, and that's it. But yeah, Kartana is covered very well. I agree with that. It was your first overall pick, well, second overall pick, so I can dig it. I don't agree with it as a second overall pick, if I'm being honest, with the Deoxys forms there and Tapu Koko and Celesteela there, but that's besides the point. 11th, Farmington for Alligators and Eevee. I like this team, and so the problem I have is that this looks like a team I would draft, minus the fact that I would probably draft actual bulk with it, and this team doesn't have that. So, fast offense and a lot of it. I like Scolipede option. I like the Mega Houndoom option. Big fans of those. Cobalion, Superior. There's a lot of mons that fit into a similar speed gap here that we're talking about, right? Superior is the fastest at base 113. Then you have Scolipede at base 112. Mega Houndoom is the fastest, then Superior, then Scolipede. Then you move down to the Cobalion, and then you move down to the Thundurus, Therian, the Mimikyu, and the Zygarde. Okay, so that's 7 Mons on your team that fit between base 115 and base 95. That is a 20-point speed gap. That's pretty huge. I'm not gonna lie. Well, Leavanny is 92, so you could say 8 Mons that fit between 92 and 115. Webs don't cover that. That's the issue here. Webs can help, but they don't cover that the majority of your team is between that 20-point speed gap. Mons like Medicham run Scarf only. That's like the only good set for regular Medicham is Scarf, just because of how slow it is. So you might see banned sets based on having webs up. I don't know. I don't know how you battle, so we'll see. Primarina is slow enough that you're not really going to run speed on it anyways, generally, and Barbarical you want to run Shell Smash sets on anyways, so it doesn't really matter that it's that slow. But Mons like Crobat get to run Adamant, and that's a big thing. Also, there's no spin on the team, so your hazard control is bad. And we'll talk about this now, I guess. You have Defog Superior, Defog Thundurus, and that's it. The team is kind of weak to rocks with Double Bug, Thundurus, and Houndoom. I mean, you're 4 times resisting it with the Cobalion, you're resisting it with the Medicham, you're resisting it with the Zygarde. I get it. I get it. Why does that matter when the team has no recovery? It has 0 recovery on it outside of like Drain Punch. Your momentum relies on Volt Switch. That is it. You don't have U-Turn anywhere on the team, and you only have Volt Switch with Thundurus Therian. So I get the feeling you're going to have to either stay in and kill things and not make predictions. Defensive predictions, that is. I mean to say defensive predictions, not offensive predictions, or you're going to get steamrolled because you don't have any switch-ins to anything. So that's kind of how I see these games going. There are a ton of setup options with webs, which I like. Nasty Plot, Houndoom, Dragon Dance, Coil, Zygarde, just Leaf Storm spamming Serp, Double Dance, Cobalion's an option, obviously. Metachim's actually relatively niche and like a calm mindset, but I've seen Gypsy King use it, so who knows if he can use it, then anyone can, really. Barbarical, Shell Smash, obviously. Thunderous, Double Dance sets, Mimikyu setup, Scolipede setup, Leavanny gets ST, like the whole team gets set up in some form. Metacham and Primarina probably the lower end of that, even though I think Primarina gets workup. Yeah. Good Scarf options. Okay, Serp is a good Scarf option. Cobalion's a niche Scarf option. Thunderous Therian's a good Scarf option. The three good Scarf options. Metacham is an amazing Scarf option, so there you go. Good balance between physical and special attack. I don't really need to go over this. You've balanced it out well. You have a nice mixed attacker in the Cobalion there. Nothing else is really a mixed attacker. Technically Superior can be, but Houndoom technically as well. Pardon me, I made it all this way without taking a sip of water or yawning up until this point because I've been talking so quickly. Walls where? Bitch, where was Hamu's team name? Hamu's team name last season, and I don't see any walls. Yeah, like I said, games are going to be fast, and you're either staying in or you're getting steamrolled. So that's how this team's going to go. Your Z users are Zygarde and I totally forgot to talk about that with Boomcan. Boomcan's Z users are Kartana and Poliwrath. Kartana is a great Z user. Poliwrath doesn't click any moves, but Z Focus Blast might be good. Who knows? Your Z users EV are Zygarde and Barbarical. Zygarde's a great Z user, so I can agree with that 100%. Unfortunately, you had a lot of good Z users that you had to pick from here. Mimikyu is an amazing Z user. I know this from using Mimikyu very extensively, that it is a great Z user, and Z Splash sets have won me so many games. If you don't know already, Z Splash boosts your attack by 3 stages, so it's better. It's a better Swords Dance, but you only get to use it once. So it's amazing on cleaner Mimikyu sets, and I've put myself in positions where Z Splash and Mimikyu can sweep just so many times. I used it in the GBA Fan Draft tournament in the round of 32, round of 64, sorry, and I made it to the round of 32. Scolipede, amazing Z user as well. I could have seen Scolipede being on there. Thunderous Therian, amazing Z user as well. Thundy T is actually one of the premier Z users in the format, and so I'm a little bit surprised not to see it there. Barbarical can use Z, so I mean, while it was probably your only option because Leavanny doesn't really want to click Z moves, I agree with it. There you go. 10th, and I'm just going to take a drink of water as you guys process who's 10th is Homage in the Singapore Solgalios. I'm dying right now. All right, I actually like this team a lot, and that's what sort of made this a top 10 team for me. I think I know a few other people who do PRs, and I talked to them about this and sort of got their feedback on my rankings. Didn't really get them to give me a ranking themselves because I didn't think that would be fair, but I got their feedback on my rankings and they agreed for the most part, but this was a team that they said they would have maybe rated a little bit lower just because it's sort of I know I said Mew is like something you have to prep for. Azumarill, same thing, but there's just a lot of middle ground threats on this team that don't add up to a big threat, if that makes sense. Very versatile roster, though. Lots of things that lots of things can do. Mew is the most versatile mon in the format. Azumarill, Tier 2 Azumarill is a massive steal. I'm really happy that you picked that up. Azumarill has its own versatility, so does Kyurem, so does Arcanine, Verzion as well. Garbodor, not so much. Gliscor, not so much. Swallow's a really good mixed attacker. Scizor is reasonably versatile, so is Spiritomb. Support options, you've got them covered. Mons like Arcanine offer really good Intimidate support. You got the Intimidate core there with the Mega Manectric and the Arcanine. Lots of really good pivoting, Manectric, Mew, Gliscor, Swallow, Scizor. That's really a lot of good momentum, which I enjoy a lot. And you have some slow momentum there with the Scizor and Mons like the Scizor, and just Scizor. Your fire resists exist, but to me, they aren't great. So Azu doesn't have reliable recovery, and it's fire resist. Arcanine is a fire resist, and it does have reliable recovery, but it's pretty easy to take out with other moves. And if rocks are up, then is it really a fire resist? It depends on the set and what you're trying to wall. And then that's it. So yeah, Virizion is weak to it, as well as Scizor being 4 times weak. Probably would have liked to seen another fire resist. Technically, Azumarill can put itself in a state where it's 4 times resistant to fire. I get that. Very niche set. You really don't see Thick Fat Azumarill much in league play. Sap Sipper trapping sets are a lot more common as the second ability that you would use over huge power. So that's there for me. And then lack of rock setters. Your only rock setter on the team is Gliscor. Gliscor and Mew. I don't like that because it forces Mew into a defensive role with rocks often, or it forces Gliscor to come often, and Ice is an amazing coverage. Like HP Ice is just an amazing coverage move in most matchups, and it does look pretty decent against your team. So I'd be a little bit worried if I were you. That's just me though. Some more positives about this team. I do like the variety of setup options that you have going on here. I see all the setup options. I like all the setup options. There's lots of sword dancing going on, lots of boosting, Gliscor, Scizor, Virizion, sword dancing, Azumarill belly drumming. I guess Mew can sword dance as well technically. Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, whatever you want. Work up, again, whatever you want. Calm Mind, Spiritomb. There's a ton of setup, tons and tons of setup, and I can appreciate it for what it is. Okay, ninth. No, hang on. Your Z users. Your Z users are Azumarill and Virizion. All right, Azumarill. The only reason it's a Z user is for Z Belly Drum. I probably would have liked to see Mew, because you can get away with Belly Drums with Citrus Berry anyways, and Mew is an amazing Z user. However, this is not like a free Z move league, so I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of leagues that allow Z captains over just Open Z, because I think Open Z is a lot more fun to prep and play in. But I'm extremely biased, so there you go. All right, ninth is the Tennessee Mutant Ninja Torkoals. I am very sorry, by the way, Snowman, for not getting your team name right at the beginning, because I definitely thought it said Tennessee Mutant Ninja Turtles and then Torkoals, and I think I got it right at the beginning, and I think I messed it up a couple times, then got it right again. This team started off horrifically to me, and then you patched it up with some good natural bulk and Wish Pass. I like the web support for your breakers. Galvantula really ties this team together for mons like Victini, Mamoswine, and the Mega Glade. Teams don't really have answers to those as physical threats, and Victini potentially is a special threat as well. You are kind of lacking on the specially offensive side. I will be a little bit honest with you. Galvantula is not a special attacker by any means. It's only base 97. Technically, by the numbers, I actually think Vaporeon is your best special attacker, which is a little bit sad, but it's quite sad actually. You do have the clerical support for all of the burn spam that's probably going to come your way, as well as toxic spam for mons like the Gramble and things like that. You have double heal bell, which I like, and again, like I said, the wish pass is really solid. I also like that you have spin block with webs. I think that's pretty important. Although at the same time, people generally just defog, so having a ghost type not the end of the world. Again, not the best thing either. Your removal options kind of suck, given that they're Delmise and the Tornadus, and people can spin block your Delmise. So Tornadus is probably going to have to run defog quite often, mainly because I think that your team doesn't really appreciate rocks. And for the most part, it's grounded, which means that spikes are going to be an issue. I like that you have a grounded poison type, though, for those T-spikes. That was a big theme throughout the draft, was T-spike usage, and so I think that it's covered well. Cons. Mamoswine is the only mon not above base 100 or below base 65. Horrible. Why? You have one mon in between that? Ugh. I've talked so much about this, I just feel like a broken record. Because you need good speed tiers, because otherwise other teams can run offensive mons and have them be stronger using Adamant or Modest natures. I need to drill this into your brains. Good speed tiers is so important in Draft League. So important. I don't care if you have webs. You can't have webs up all the time. You can't use webs as a crutch to say, I don't need good speed tiers, I have webs. That's not a thing. That's not how it works. Webs are not up 100% of the time in your games. Think responsibly, okay? All right, lack of reliable recovery. These are going to be really fast games. You're really relying on Vaporeon to Wish Pass, and that's not reliable recovery because it's not the same turn. Gramble doesn't have reliable recovery. Delmise has Synthesis. That's about the best you're going to get. That's about the best you're going to get. So I do think these are going to be really fast games, and I'm excited to see them play out. Your Z users are perfect for this team. Everything else are horrible Z users, and you actually ended up with two really perfect ones in the Tornadus Therian and the Granbull. Z Heal Bell Granbull is really cool, as well as offensive Granbull with Z move, and then Tornadus Therian is an amazing Z user. 8th, Bombable Cephalons and Archit. I Man, this team started off so well, but you first picked Blacephalon. I don't get it. Um, Veil offense is a really strong strategy, but you don't have much bulk outside of the Veil. It's really reliant on having Veil up, and I think we're going to see that's kind of going to be a crutch for you this season, is running Veil. I don't know. You and I were discussing in the chat about playing perfectly, and being able to play perfectly means that your team doesn't matter. I disagree. I think that you can only go as far as your team can take you. Whether or not you're a good player or a bad player, I've yet to see that. Just because I haven't been here very long. I know you won the championship last year, so I'm leaning towards that you're a good player. We'll put it that way. Lean towards you're a good player. I Good players falling back on crutches is a dangerous habit to get into, and I really hope that it doesn't turn into that. I really hope that you prove me wrong. I really do, because I love seeing good games, but Veil offense is abusable, and you have nothing. This is one of my niche complaints, or my niche complaint is you have nothing to punish defog. No one has any reason to not defog your Veil away, which then removes your crutch and leaves you open to other offensive teams. So there you go. It's a strong hazard game. You've got rocks there in the T-Tar, the Lando, the Nidoqueen, T-Spikes the Nidoqueen, rocks on the Registeel. Lots of really good rock options there. Takes the niche off of Mega Tyranitar, which I like. Takes it off of Nidoqueen as well, which I like. Nidoqueen is a very strong mon in the format. Reliable Scarfers, you got really reliable Scarfers in the Blacephalon. Alolan Ninetales seems to be running Scarf a lot. Nidoqueen can run Scarf. Keldeo is really reliable Scarfer, so is Rotom-Mow. Alright, you've got a lot between 100 and 109 speed. You really do. Linoon, Landorus Incarnate, Blacephalon, Alolan Ninetales, Keldeo. That's 5 mons between base 100 and base 109. Almost half of your team fitting between 9 speed points. Not a fan. Despite you having the Scarfers, you don't actually have speed control outside of that, or like running Icy Wind Alolan Ninetales or Icy Wind Keldeo. Icy Wind Keldeo is standard, but Icy Wind Alolan Ninetales is not. So I dislike the speed control options there. You might have to run Thunder Wave on mons like Registeel and Rotom-Mow quite often. And then Gothorita is, again, it's pretty niche. I really feel like you could have just gone for a better Psychic type in Tier 5, honestly. Trapping things is kind of cool, but being weak to knockoff isn't. And that's kind of one of my complaints about the Blacephalon is that... I don't know, I thought about this a lot because I think Blacephalon in some ways is covered well and in others is not. Like your only ghost answer is Linoon and Mega T-Tar. So like Ghost plus Fighting coverage kind of beats that. And then Dark plus Ghost plus Fighting kind of beats the whole team. And Psychic. So, like those 4 typings kind of just run through it. Not much you can really do about it. Just not super solid Ghost answers to me. I think Mega T-Tar is going to be relied on a lot. Tier 5 Linoon is bonkers, by the way, so congrats on getting Tier 5 Linoon. I have not seen Tier 5 Linoon since Sun and Moon. Your Z users are Landorus Incarnate and Rotom-Mow. I kind of would have liked to seen Z Blacephalon. If I'm being completely honest, I think Z Blacephalon plus maybe Z Linoon or Z Gothorita or something might have been a little bit better. This is probably a good second option. Actually, maybe a better second option would have been Z Keldeo. So this is maybe a good third option. But Rotom-Mow is a good Z user. I don't know about Lando Eye. I don't get the Lando Eye hype. I don't even know if there's hype for Sandforce Lando Eye. It's just kind of bad in my eyes. I'm trying to move it down to tier 3 in a couple leagues because I just don't think it's that good. Yeah, that's about all I had to say, Archit. I respect you. I'll take your word that the team's good, and we'll just move on. And it'll only be based on your battling skills from this point on, anyways. So don't expect to be 8th if you battle well. 7th is Austin the Atlanta Landorus. I helped draft this team. I don't know. Something's not clicking in my mind with this team. It's got really good natural bulk on it. Really solid natural bulk. Mons like Mega Aggron. Volcanion's got really good natural bulk. So does Umbreon. Cryogonal's got really good special bulk. So does Roserade. Girder, really good defensive bulk. And then Necrozma on both sides as well. Strong, strong natural bulk. And it's got wish support into those, as well as reliable recovery on Mons like Necrozma. I think wish support with Mega Aggron is extremely important. You always want wish support with Mega Aggron just because it doesn't have the reliable recovery that it needs. Hazard support wise, there are a few rockers on this team. You got the Aggron, you got the Garchomp, and then Necrozma, so triple rockers. And then you've got webs with the Ribombee, spikes and T-spikes with the Roserade, so you have all kinds of hazards. I like it, I like it, I like it. Lack of physical attackers. You're running Mega Aggron as a physical attacker, Garchomp as a physical attacker, and Girder and Ambipom as physical attackers that stand out to me right now. Necrozma can be a physical attacker. It can. So can Thunderous Incarnate, so can Volcanion, some mixed attackers there. I just generally feel like Garchomp is going to be the main physical attacker that's prepped for. You probably won't see a lot of burns coming in on this team. I just don't see the point. I really feel like Toxic's going to be really common against things like Necrozma and Umbreon. Poor momentum, very poor momentum. You have U-turn in the Ribombee and the Ambipom, and then you have momentum in the Thunderous Incarnate. However, I would like to see some more versatile momentum options. Ribombee doesn't really use U-turn, so it's really going to be Ambipom and Thunderous. Thunderous has matchups where it wants to be momentum, like you want it to be a pivot, and matches where you need to set up. Ambipom, same thing, where you want to be a pivot or you just want to stay in and tail slap stuff. I don't know. Maybe something like a Zapdos would have really fit on this team a little bit better than Thunderous Incarnate. That's just my opinion, though. I really think that Zapdos is a strong pivot, and I'm just a big Zapdos fan. So there you go. Last point is about your Z users, Cryogonal and Thunderous Incarnate. Again, this could have gone a different way. Volcanion's a good Z user, and I guess you probably would have had to end up with like Ribombee there. No, hang on. Ribombee's tier 3, like Volcanion, Ambipom. I guess Volcanion, Ambipom maybe. Cryogonal is probably not running Z. Thunderous Incarnate's a good Z user. So is Garchomp. Garchomp's actually a really amazing Z user in the format. So I'm a little bit disappointed to not see Garchomp as a Z user. And then Necrozma's always there as a niche Z user option as well. Number 6, Byron and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like this team generally. This is a very Byron-esque team. I've battled in the league with Byron before. He absolutely trashed me. And yeah, this is a very Byron-esque team. The biggest issue I have with it is that it doesn't have a lot of offense. Mega Beedrill, Tapu Koko, Hoop Unbound. Everything else really wants to run defensive sets generally. Lycanroc Midnight has niche matchups, but it won't come to every game. Mods like Tangrowth can be offensive, generally defensive. Same with Melodic. I've used Melodic very well in the past offensively. Not really an offensive mon, it's a very defensive mon. Your momentum game is amazing. You have all of these pivots all over the place. You have Parting Shot support on your team. You have Volturn with the Mega Beedrill Tapu Koko, probably the best Volturn I've seen ever in Mega Beedrill plus Tapu Koko. And again, all these pivots, you got Tangrowth to pivot into, Melodic to pivot into, back into Alolan Persian, Parting Shot out. You can pivot into Druddigon. I appreciate all of the pivoting options there. Even Fortress can Volt Switch out. Like, it's insane. The momentum game is really good. And then you sponge a lot with this huge defensive backbone. It's going to be really hard to break through this team when you have mons like Tangrowth, Porygon 2, Fortress, Hitmontop, Melodic, and Druddigon sitting there. That's 6 out of 11 mons. And then Alolan Persian as well, actually. So 7 out of 11 mons as your defensive backbone. I think it's going to be really hard to break, and teams are going to struggle. And you're going to be able to break them down slowly but surely with the Volt Turn into your walls that generally break. Your bug resists for the Hoop Unbound are very few and far between, I find. It's like Fortress and Tapu Koko. I think that's it, actually. I don't think that rock resists bug, but I could be talking out of my ass. Now I have to Google this. I know it resists poison. I don't know if it resists bug. Google, please. Be faster. Steel resists rock. Okay, I don't know. No clue. I'm guessing it's no. I'm guessing I'm right. Okay. Yeah, that's all the points that I had to make about your team, Byron. I'm running out of music, which means that I'm running long on this video. So I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit as we get to the end. There are a lot less negatives as I get to the end here, and I really don't have that much more to talk about. Tapu Koko and Alolan Persian as the users. I could have also seen the Hoop Unbound and Tapu Koko as the user, or sorry, Hoop Unbound and Alolan Persian as the users. I think Alolan Persian's fine. Tapu Koko, Hoop Unbound, really could have chosen either one. 5, Memphis Marshadows and Mano. I like this team a lot. Generally, Mano drafts a much bulkier playstyle than I like to see, but this is a really good mix of bulk and offense, and I think that it's the best mix of bulk and offense in the league. Double Wish Pass is pretty clutch, as well as having reliable recovery on a lot of these mons like Latios and the Mega Scizor. Pretty helpful, but Wish Pass into things like Regirock is pretty niche as well. Decent speed tiers. You got a lot of speed tiers covered, and I think it's covered well. This is probably the first team that I've said that about. Yeah, it's probably the first team I've said that about. I didn't talk about this with Byron's team. His speed tiers are awful, but we'll get. I'm not going back to that. Okay, good setup options. Mega Scizor, a really good setup. Lando, Volcarona, all really good setup. Latios, really good setup. Regirock is actually really good setup as well. I like the setup. All right, lack of solid fire resists. Your fire resists are Alomomola and Latios and Regirock. Regirock doesn't have the reliable recovery, so you're going to have to pass a Wish into it, so it can't eat a ton of fire hits. Generally, it's physically defensive, so special fire hits are a little bit dangerous, especially when Mega Scizor is physically defensive anyway, so you want to be using special fire hits to hit the Mega Scizor. I'm a little bit iffy on this. Alomomola is generally more physically defensive than specially defensive as well, so fire is really iffy for me. When Scizor is weak to it, Amoonguss is weak to it, Rotom Frost is weak to it, and Volcarona is neutral, which means fire hits are probably going to come out against Volcarona as well. A little bit scared. 1 rock resist with Volcarona. What? Mano, I think this slipped by you. Your 1 rock resist is Pangoro. You don't want to switch that in on rock types. Volcarona is such a key part of your offense, and the fact that you don't have rock resists means that people are going to set up Stealth Rocks, and you're going to have to take Chip on your team from Stealth Rock. I don't like that you have to take Chip on your team with Stealth Rocks. Again, I'm a little bit nitpicky at this stage, just because we're getting up into the higher stages here. I like all of the defensive synergy that these mons have going on. I could probably sit here and talk for another hour about these teams. I don't want to do that because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time when I've already talked about this stuff when I went through the picks in the draft. So we'll just get to these users here. Lando and Rotom Frost. You had a really tough decision between Lando and Volcarona. Lando, Volcarona, and Latios, I think, as Z users were all very viable. And then Rotom Frost is a really good Z user just because it needs to hit Blizzards, and I think that Z Blizzard Rotom Frost is actually a very legitimate set. All right, number 4 is Necro and the London Lycanrocs. I love this team. And now we're into the top 4 here. I had a really hard time deciding between these 4. My biggest irk with this team was the speed tiers, and that's why it's 4th. I think that all 4 of the top 4 teams could be 1 to 4 depending on who was looking at it, and for me it's the speed tiers is a big thing. That was a very big theme throughout the draft, and that's a big point here for me. Okay, best bulk in the draft. You have Celesteela plus Suicune. What? How is that? Like, that's insane. Then you throw Alolan Muck in there, then you throw Serena, then you throw Miltank in there. Amazing bulk, fantastic. Lots of breakers. Mega Diancy's a breaker. Golurk's a breaker, Blaziken's a breaker, Magnezone, Noivern, Alakazam, all good breakers. You have lots of good cleaners as well. I didn't put that point in there, but where was I? Cleaners. Blaziken's a good cleaner, Magnezone, Noivern, Alakazam. Oh god, excuse me. The back half, all of your free picks, really good cleaners. I can totally appreciate it. Cons, you're horrific speed tiers, man. I talked about this gap between Mega Diancy and the Suicune. Miltank does not fix that. Miltank does not run speed. It's very easy to creep that and still run Adamant or Modest. Not a fan. Awful Dragon. Noivern is just a really bad Dragon pick for a team that I was really excited about because you had Mega Diancie Celesteela right off the bat, and then your dragon kind of like got left for a while when you could have taken a really good dragon like Latios fell deep into this draft. Mega Diancie Latios plus Celesteela, yikes. Now, granted, Mega Diancie and Latios are the same speed tier. I don't know if you wanted to go that way or not. I really appreciate a good Fairy Dragon Steel, and you've got a really good Fairy in Steel, and then really bad Dragon. You can substitute Magnezone in, it doesn't make it any better. In fact, it makes it worse. So that's my biggest nitpick there. And I think that was the whole idea. I didn't like the Alakazam pick before when you had Mesprit, and then you dropped Mesprit for something. I can't remember. I think you dropped it for Miltank. So I like the Alakazam on the team after that. Just because I didn't understand where you were coming from with the Alakazam before, but now that I've seen your free agent, I totally get it. Magnezone, the ground weakness really isn't covered for it. Like Celis, you got double flyings, but Muck's weak to it, Diancie's weak to it, Blaziken's weak to it, Magnezone's 4 times weak. I don't know. Celesteel's a reliable ground switch in. I'm just still worried. I'm still worried. Okay, number 3 is Young Rocks and the Honolulu Hoppoops. I liked this team quite a bit. I thought it was very well rounded. It's lacking in the speed, and that was like the only con I could think of. But it's just sort of lackluster compared to teams 1 and 2 with the firepower. It doesn't really have the firepower. This team kind of pivots around a lot. It relies on its natural bulk and spike stack from Klefki and Cloyster, and I think that makes it good, but I don't think it makes it great. You have really strong pivoting with things like the Jirachi and the Hydreigon, and the Zatu and the Rotom Wash, and technically Oricorio as well, although I don't know how many games Oricorio is going to see. So again, I like the team. You got good natural bulk with the Hippowdon, with the Klefki, with the Mega Venusaur, and the Rotom Wash, and the Jirachi as well. Excuse me. So you can chew hits. You have no problem eating fairy hits for the Hydreigon. You really don't. So solid way of covering Hydreigon there. I agree with it 100%. You've done well covering the ground with mons like Zatu, mons like Hydreigon, mons like Rotom Wash, mons like Oricorio. So ground is a bit of a weakness, but it's covered. You do have a very niche sand option with the Lycanroc Midday and the Hippowdon. I kind of like that. Offers up a little bit more versatility on the team, which is positive. And then you have good hazard control with ones like Jirachi getting rocks, Cloyster getting spikes and T-spikes, Lycanroc getting rocks, Klefki getting spikes, Hippowdon getting rocks, and then you have removal in the Hydreigon with Defog, Cloyster with Rapid Spin, Zatu with Defog, Klefki with Defog, and Rotom Wash with Defog, and Oricorio with Defog technically too. So really good hazard control all around. Again, my biggest nitpick was the speed. Well-rounded team. Congrats. You're third. Oh. That's a yawn. Speed. Z users on Necro's team were Celesteela and Golurk. I agree with that. Maybe the only thing I would have Z'd was like Blaziken, but I definitely agree with that. Z users on this team. Holy crap, where is your team on here? I lost it. Hydreigon and Lycanroc Midday. Again, I agree with this. Your Z users were kind of awful. Like, you didn't really have great choices, so Hydreigon kind of has to be a Z user, and it works effectively as one. And then Lycanroc Midday, throw it in there. I don't know. Maybe it'll use it once in a while. I need to take a drink of water before we get to number 2. You guys probably realize that there's only 2 teams left, and you might know who they are. I'm losing my voice from talking so much. Yikes. 2. Helsinki Heat Hamu. I love this team. I love it. 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 Excuse me. There are 3 cons to this team. It's way more than the last team, but they're very niche cons. Okay, pros, well-rounded team. You can go through this lineup. You can pick out a few walls, a few mixed walls. You can pick out special attackers and physical attackers, which I really like. It's a well-rounded, versatile team. There's some bulky boys on this team. Mons like Mantine and Sylveon and Nihilego tank things on the special side really, really well. Gorgeist has a niche there as well, so does Rotom Heat. And then Deoxys defense as well. And then physically defensive-wise, you have good options with the DoD, Rotom Heat, Gorgeist. I think it's very solid bulk on the team. Strong priority in Mons like Fake Out, Quick Attack Lopunny, Ice Shard Weavile, Extreme Speed Zygarde 10, and that was it. But that's all really strong priority. Oh, Gorgeist with Shadow Sneak as well. Really, really strong priority. Love it. Speed tier distribution is very high with Mons like Mega Lopunny, Weavile, Zygarde 10, and then like Durant, Nihilego, and then it falls down to Rotom, and then you fall into the depths of the abyss where nothing runs speed. So essentially, anything under Rotom Heat doesn't really need to speed creep because like your walls don't run speed unless you want them to be bad walls. So there you go. Higher tier steel type would be really solid on this team. I think it would work out well. Not that it's missing per se because you have the Durant, but steel is like a good fairy switch in, and so this team ends up lacking in fairy answers besides Rotom Heat and Nihilego, and Nihilego doesn't have recovery. Rotom Heat doesn't have reliable recovery. I don't know. Maybe a little bit better of a steel type would have been nice because Durant kind of is like paper thin like Kartana. So yeah, I would have liked to see maybe a little bit more of a defensive steel on the team. And then my last point is a lack of good momentum. Rotom Heat is like the only pivot on this team besides Wishy Washy, which is yeah. Lack of good momentum, man. You're gonna have to make a lot of predictions and hard switch into things rather than be able to threaten things out and volt switch or U-turn, which I think is a very strong aspect in Draft League. Is that you can counter team and have those threats there and volt turn around, which is I don't know. It's personal preference for me as well, which is kind of why post draft is like horrible to rank because it's really all personal preference, and I haven't seen how you guys battle at all. So there you go. Last but not least, I'm just going to reverse the music back to the start here because it's at the end of this now and you guys didn't get to hear the beginning. All right, team number 1 is Gallahan Curlias. I loved this team. Zapdos plus Buzzwole is a tried and true. Zapdos, Buzzwole, and Slazzle I used on my second place team recently in a league, and it was and Mega Alakazam. Oh, sorry, I didn't have Zapdos on this team. I had Mega Alakazam. Very strong pairing together. Clefable and Ferrothorn, very strong pairing together. Zapdos with anything, very strong pairing together. I like Sharpedo as the dark type. It's a very niche dark type option. It gives you speed boost, which is actually pretty cool. I like the speed boost option. Haxorus is there are better dragons out there, if I'm being completely honest, but having another setup option is really strong. It's a good mix of special and physical. There's natural bulk all over the place. Mons like Zapdos, Buzzwole with really good defense, type Null, Clefable, Ferrothorn, Rhydon. This team fits itself together very well. I'm a big fan. Great cleaner options. Mega Alakazam's a good breaker and a good cleaner. You can pull off really cool sweeps. I've traced Beast Boost in the past and swapped people by tracing Beast Boost with Mega Alakazam and just boosting my special attack over and over again. Buzzwole, same thing. You've got an Ultra Beast. Ultra Beasts lead to sweeps, and I like that a lot. I totally forgot to mention the Z users on Hamu's team. Let's get to that really quickly. Rotom Heat, Zygarde 10, bad Z users, but really did you have anything better? Not really. Like Nihilego, maybe? Nihilego plus Durant, maybe. I don't know. That might have been my other choice. Otherwise, Weavile as a Z user is not bad. Probably would have only been able to pair it with like Gourgeist or Wishy-Washy. I don't know. Okay, back to Vendrill. Great team. Love it. My big things on this team. Lack of momentum. You're relying on Zapdos a lot. I did say it was a good pivot, but it's Zapdos and type Null are your only momentum grabbers. It's usable. It's workable. Not fantastic. Your main fire resist is Rhydon for Buzzwole. For Buzzwole and Ferrothorn. I don't like that. Salazzle and Sharpedo do resist. So does Haxorus. They don't really want to eat those hits. Frostlass is also weak to fire. I'm really a little bit worried that Rhydon is going to have to be the main fire resist. Luckily for you, fire is not a very common typing. Unfortunately for you, HP fire will be common against your team. However, you've got some other 4x weaknesses on there with the Buzzwole, so maybe HP Flying will be thrown on there, maybe HP Ground will be thrown on there for the Salazzle, so definitely workable. Big fan of the team. I like that you've got a three different rockers. I don't think that it necessarily matters that they're Clefable, Ferrothorn, and Rhydon because all three of them are really good setting rocks. Clefable is broken and will always get rocks up. Ferrothorn, broken, always will get rocks up. You have spikes options in the Ferrothorn and the Frostlass. You have a grounded poison type to absorb those T-spikes that mons like Buzzwole and Haxorus don't appreciate. And you have a status absorber in the Clefable, really strong status absorber in the Clefable, as well as the Mega Alakazam. I believe it's not first turn Mega, so you don't even have to Mega Alakazam right away, and it can be another status absorber for you. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am wrong. And that's really just going to take it home. So let's talk about your Z users then before we go. Haxorus and Salazzle, pretty strong Z users. I don't really think you had many other options. Maybe Buzzwole and Sharpedo would have been options as well. Buzzwole typically functions with a choice item a lot better than it does with a Z Crystal, though, so I can understand it. Haxorus is amazing with a Z Crystal, so is Salazzle. 100% agree with those. That sort of just rounds out how much I like this team. So I am looking for you to win the whole thing. That you are my prediction to win this entire league, and I'm hoping that my prediction will come true. We'll see as the season progresses, won't we? So that's going to be for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. I am so sorry that I took up all of this time. I did crest the hour mark just barely. I'm not going to put timestamps, so you can just skip up to where you see your slide and then go from there. Again, I'm going to be using Necro slides in the future. And as I'm recording this, only like 2 games have been played, so get your games done. I made these before games have been played, so please don't think that the games that have been played as I'm recording this had any impact on the post draft at all. They didn't. They will have an impact on week 1, though. Use the post draft as a baseline. Don't use it as an ultimatum for your rank this season. I really want to see people improve. That's the big thing, is have people improve. I know a lot of you guys are a little bit newer to the draft format or haven't been playing that much draft format, and I can appreciate that for sure. And I'll be judging based on what I see and plays that I see made, rather than I'll probably ask for clarification on a few sets and plays that you make, but um, yeah, we'll just keep it at that. So that's going to be it, and hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'll see you for the week 1.